today's video is going to be a look at some favourite protagonists from books and series that I've read. And this isn't going to be an exhaustive list because we'd be here like literally all day, I think. So I've just picked just four of my favourite protagonists. I'm thinking of also doing a favourite side characters version of this video at some point, so if you'd be interested in that then do let me know. But I'm going to start with my favourite protagonists, and like I said I have four, so jumping straight in with number one, and this is in no means in any particular order, but number one is Yelena from the Chronicles of Ixia series by Maria V. Snyder. And I don't have a physical copy because I read this one on an ebook, but I'll put a picture of it somewhere for you. Yelena is our main protagonist, and at the beginning of book one, which is Poison Study, she is in the cells awaiting her execution for murder. And as the series develops, we discover more about the circumstances that led Yelena to be in that prison cell, but we don't know that straight away. We just know that she is to be executed, and she is collected from the prisons, and she believes that she is being led to her execution, which has come around very quickly. And then she realises that actually she's being given a choice. She meets Valek, who is the first advisor to the ambassador, who is the person in charge of this world, or this land, and he offers her a choice. He says that she can either go through with the plan and be executed, or she can agree to become the ambassador's poison taster, which, as the name suggests, means that she has to try all of his food and drinks before he does to make sure that they're not poisoned, so that if they are, it's her that dies rather than him. And so she has this choice to make, and one, execution leads to certain death, and two, poison taster leads to probable death. So naturally she goes for option two. And the reason I love Yelena is because we grow so much with her through this series. I don't want to get too into it because I of course don't want to give you any spoilers, but she grows a lot in this series and we learn to understand her. She's a very strong individual and she internalizes a lot of her worries. She doesn't burden others with them. She very much feels that they're her crosses to bear and it's her responsibility to deal with them. So she's by no means a whiny character at all. She's very strong, she's very intelligent, and she uses her strength, emotional strength rather than physical strength, and her intelligence to help others and to help herself and to learn and to grow as a character. And I really love her. And there are other elements of the story and there are a lot of great relationships in this series, but a lot of it centres around Yelena and her discovering herself and her past and dealing with all of these struggles in a really positive way and never giving up. And I think that that's a really, really important message. You know, she's not perfect by any means, none of us are, but she still uses her own internal strength to progress herself and the story, and I really, really just love her as a character. So moving on to favourite protagonist number two, I am going to talk about Kaladin from the Stormlight Archive, but more specifically from The Way of Kings, because he is the protagonist in this one, and although he is in the other Stormlight books, this is the book in which he is the protagonist. And Kaladin is, again, he's a flawed character and we grow with him, but the thing about Kaladin is that the way that this book is written, it is very, very clear that he suffers with depression and anxiety, and so do I. And I feel like these kinds of conditions shouldn't be brushed under the carpet. A lot of people feel like it's taboo to talk about these things, and they don't want people to know that they're struggling with these things. But I think that it's important that people understand that they're not alone in these struggles, and Kaladin really feels alone for a lot of this book. And this book, as much as it's about the plot of the story, it's also about Kaladin discovering that he isn't alone, and there are other people that not only are there because they need his help, but are there for him and will support him when he needs them. And you know, he's by no means cured by the end of this book. Like, it's just, that's not realistic. Everybody has something that they're struggling with, and Kaladin has many things that he's struggling with, and none of them are resolved, and he constantly has to address the same issues and claw himself back from the brink. But he manages to do it in a way that's natural. It's not like all of a sudden, oh, everything's fine and dandy and I'm happy again, and you know, none of that ever happened to me and we'll just ignore it and sweep it under the rug. No, you know, he has relapses. He thinks that things are getting better and then something bad happens and he thinks it's his fault, and it's not. It's life. Life is shit sometimes, but he feels this incredible sense of responsibility to the people who are around him, and I can really relate to that. I feel like my own emotions sometimes shouldn't impact on anybody else other than me, and I have to bury them down deep and ignore that they're there and hope that they'll go away, but that's just not realistic. And he starts to share his feelings, particularly with Syl, who is one of his friends, and she really helps him, and she doesn't understand. And this is another thing about the relationship between Kaladin and Syl in particular that I really like. She doesn't suffer from depression, from what I can tell of her character. She has her own issues, but that isn't one of them. And so you find a lot of the time in real life that people who don't suffer from depression might struggle to understand and see the world from the perspective of somebody that does. But Syl doesn't do that. She's always there for him. She doesn't judge him, and he leans on her, and that's the way it should be. So really, I feel like Brandon Sanderson's done such a good job with mental health representation in these books, because it isn't a primary theme and it isn't like in your face, but it's there. But in this one in particular, I found that Kaladin's representation of the desperation and the difficulty that can be found in bringing yourself back from that brink of feeling like everything is hopeless and what's the point, is just, it's just so well done. And I feel like Kaladin is such a relatable character, and he's such a strong character even though he doesn't think he is. I love this book, and I love Kaladin as a character. He's definitely one of my favourites. The next protagonist I want to talk about is Vin from Mistborn, which is another Brandon Sanderson book, and another one that I actually don't have because, again, I read it on my Kindle, but picture somewhere. Vin. Very similar really to Yelena. I think that there are some themes here, but Vin is at the start of the Mistborn series. She is part of this crew of thieves and con artists and anything else you can think of that's the criminal element. They've probably done it. And she's just a member of the team, but she keeps to herself. She doesn't really try and immerse herself too much into that world. She's just trying to get by, and she doesn't think much of herself, but she has these powers and she's not really sure what they are, and she's just trying to stay out of as much drama as she can. But as is often the case in these kind of stories, drama finds her and she makes the best of it, you know. And I think what I like most about Vin is that she is a very, very complex character. She, you know, she's this girl with magical abilities and she's very good with them very, very quickly, but it's because she's been using them unknowingly for her whole life. And once she realises what these powers are and how to use them, she realises this is a part of herself that she's been looking for her whole life, and that helps her to feel better because she feels like she's found a world that she fits in. But wait, maybe that's not the case, because then she's thrust into pretending to be a member of the high class, and she finds that she actually, surprisingly, enjoys that world and feels like she fits in there too. So it's, who is she and who is she meant to be, and how is she supposed to figure all of those things out? And I think that that's so realistic for so many people. Like, when we're growing up, we always wonder to ourselves, well, who am I? Who am I meant to be? Like, what kind of person am I supposed to be? What am I supposed to do with my life? Like, who should my friends be? Who should my friends not be? And I think that that's a theme that continues. I mean, I'm 27 and I still feel like that sometimes. Like, where is my life going? What am I supposed to be doing? I don't know. And she really grows with that and settles into herself throughout the book, and there's still so much that she needs to figure out throughout the series, but she still continues growing and evolving and coming into herself and accepting herself, and I really, really appreciate that. And I think that, you know, she's been through so much adversity and she comes out the other side and she uses it to her advantage, and I think that that's really admirable. So I really enjoy reading Vin's perspective, and I really, really love Vin as a character. Finally, very different kind of character, I think, although again probably for similar reasons, is Zadist he's from the Black Dagger Brotherhood, but the book I'm specifically talking about is Lover Awakened, which again, read it on ebook, so picture somewhere. The Black Dagger Brotherhood is a multiple perspective series, so each book there's one main protagonist, but all of the characters feature in all of the books at some point, and most of them quite a lot. But the book in which Zadist is a protagonist is Lover Awakened, and it's book 3 in the series. And I think that there's something like 15 books, I want to say, in the series so far, and I'm pretty sure I've read all of them apart from the most recently released one, which I haven't got to yet. And I love this series. It's one of my favourite series of all time, and it follows it follows the Black Dagger Brotherhood, which are a group of vampires who are protecting the vampire race from their mortal enemies, the Lessers, who are trying to kill vampires. And it's this standard epic war story of the two factions that are out to get each other. And that's kind of the overarching plot of the series, but each book, like I said before, centres on one of the brothers, one of the main characters, and it follows their love story. It's a romance series, essentially, with fantastical elements rather than a fantasy series with romance elements. It's the other way around. And I really, really love this series, and I love all of the brothers, I do. But I think Zadist is my favourite, and he is such a complex character. There are minor spoilers from here on out, very minor, but I will just put that out there now, because Zadist struggles again with his mental health, but for very, very sad and awful reasons. He was kept as a blood slave, which means that he was used to feed this princess. In this world, vampires are only able to drink blood from other vampires of the opposite sex. So male vampires have to drink from female vampires, and female vampires have to drink from male vampires to sustain themselves. And so Zadist is kept as a prisoner by this princess to be used for his blood and for sex. And he is tortured, and his past is awful, and so he's messed up. He is not a nice guy. He is really difficult to be around. He's very, very aggressive with people, he doesn't want to talk to people, he isn't a relatable character, and he's messed up, and he has good reason to be, but nobody knows how to help him because none of them have been through it, and he doesn't want to let them help him. He's perfectly happy to go on with his life with nobody touching him, nobody coming near to him, nobody relating to him in any way, and he's happy with that because he just doesn't want to deal with the emotion of having a connection with anyone else, including his twin brother, who wasn't taken as a blood slave. And Zadis really, really grows in this book, but he's still messed up at the end of it, and that's what I like about that book and about that series, is these characters, they are flawed and they stay flawed. They deal with some of their issues, but they're by no means fixed. But what I love about Zadis is he's so brave. He has been through these awful, awful things that nobody should ever have to go through, but he works on it, and he eventually realizes that he doesn't need to live his life alone. He doesn't need to push everybody away. He doesn't have to feel dirty or disgraceful. It's not his fault what happened to him. It was something that was done to him, and he deserves to be happy, and he starts taking steps to get there, and it's a long road. It's really difficult for him, and he has lots of setbacks, but he's really trying to better himself because he's created all of these habits of pushing people away, of being really aggressive, and he's working on those, and he realizes that he's not always successful. Sometimes he is still a dick, but that's okay because he still works on it and he's still trying to get there. And it's admirable, really. He's been through such awful, awful things in his life, and he's still trying to push through. And I really, really love that about him. Zadis is by far my favourite character in that whole series. I just absolutely love him. So that was the list of my 4 favourite protagonists for now. Again, by no means exhaustive. There are many, many more characters in books that I like. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video and would like to see any more from me, then please do hit that subscribe button. I'd be super grateful. And I hope to see you again here soon. Bye!